Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name is Acacia. Today I'm going to be doing my April part wrap-up. This is my second part, technically, as I already did a wrap-up of the Made Me Do It Recommendations Readathon. I will link that up in the cards. I read about 6 books there, and then I've read another few here. I'm pretty happy with the way that my reading month went, and I am excited to just dive in. So the first book I did a buddy read with Amanda Center, whose channel I will link up in the cards. This is Charlotte Bronte, A Life by Claire Harmon. So I went into this thinking that it was a biography of Charlotte Bronte, and it is in elements, but it is also about the other Bronte family members, and so it wasn't a fully rounded, focused on Charlotte book, which is what I was hoping for, so it didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. I also felt a couple times like the writing was a little bit dull. Amanda listened to it on audio and she felt differently than I did, but for me it kind of lagged and felt a little bit drawn out and a little bit slower than it should have been. So for me, it's a decent book for information. I'll keep it on my shelves, but it's not something that I would go around recommending immediately as a resource for just Charlotte Bronte. If you're interested in all the Brontes, this is a good place to start. I'm curious about Take Courage by I can't remember who it's by, but it's about Anne Bronte. I'm curious about that because there's not a lot about Anne in here, and she had a very difficult life. So I'm curious about that, but we'll see if I get to that or when I get to that. I forgot to say, as always, these are in order of least to most enjoyed, so it gets better, I promise. Then I read this. This is The Red Word by Sarah Hestra. This was hard. This was really hard to read. This is the story of a girl who is exposed to gang rape culture at a fraternity. And it dives into the conversations of that mentality, of misogyny, of sexism, of rape culture, and it dives into it pretty clearly. However, I felt that it could have been done a little bit less for the shock value. It felt like it was there for shock value more so than just getting the facts across. And it was decent and interesting, but it kept making me feel more and more uncomfortable, and I don't think that the conversation should be comfortable. I don't believe that for a second, but I do believe that there should be elements of it that are presented in a way that are digestible and acceptable and understandable rather than just shock value. Again, it might feel differently upon a reread with less of the shock for the initial shock's sake. But for the first round, I was not entirely thrilled with how it went. This is Mind on Fire by Arnold Thomas Fanning. This was shortlisted for the Wellcome Book Prize. It's a memoir of madness and recovery. It talks about depression pretty openly. And it's honest. It's pretty blunt, and it has a lot of value to it. I, however, did not like the writing style. I didn't get along with it. I thought it was clunky and a little bit too pretentious. And I felt that the point was there but muddled. I didn't feel it was as clear cut as it could have been. Overall, I would say if you want to learn more about depression, I've read other books that I feel demonstrate depression better, some of which are fiction. This one felt a little too... so the blurb really sells it to me every time I read it. Like, I feel like I should have read a different book from the blurb. First experience of depression during adolescence following the death of his mother. In his 20s, an up-and-coming playwright, he is overcome by mania and delusions, thus begin a terrible period in which he is often suicidal, increasingly disconnected from his family and friends, sometimes in trouble with the law and homeless in London. Drawing on his own memories and recollections of people he knew when he was as worse in the medical and police records, Arnold Fanning has produced a beautifully written, devastatingly intense account of madness and recovery. Mind on Fire is a gripping, sometimes harrowing, and utterly uplifting testament of a person who visited the hellish regions of the mind. It sounds like something I should love. I preferred Brain on Fire. That was really what I preferred. This was not the same reason for the madness at all. This was mental health versus physical health, but and I also preferred, what was the other one I preferred? There have been other books I've read on madness that I felt are more concise and explanatory, rather than self-indulgent. I feel really bad giving that review, but that's where I'm at. This is Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb, a therapist, her therapist, and our lives revealed. This one I read with some slower aspects to it. I really didn't rush this one. It felt a lot more personal and intense. I'm going to be doing a full in-depth review of this since I was sent it for review. This book I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It was... I'm not going to say it's beautifully written. I'm not going to say it's lyrical. Like, I'm not going to go there. That's not what this book is, and that's not what this book was ever meant to be. It's written in plain, outright, thoughtful, persuasive, honest opinions. And it is the context of what it is to be a therapist and what it is to be human, and the psyche and the problems that we all face as humans on a regular basis and need help with, regardless of who we are and what we do for a living or how much we know about being able to cope with dysfunction or trouble. We're still human and all have the ability to fall short in those moments. I thought it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I'll talk more about it in its review. This one I picked up because I asked you guys if you wanted me to read this, and a couple of you said yes. That's enough for me. This is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Okay, so I did enjoy this. That is not the issue. The issue is it worth the hype? This book, I would say, is hypeable, like you can hype it and it makes sense. It's fun, it's fast, it's easy, it's insightful, it's really, you know, immersive. It gives you a lot of insight into a world. It's entertaining, it really is. So it's written in a almost interview / oral history style writing. So it's broken up by each person. And you're getting to hear everyone's thoughts and ideas and memories about different situations and how they interpreted it and how others interpreted it. And you get to see all the different sides and how it was seen and all that. That was really interesting. Following a band in the 1970s, I believe, was a lot of fun. Rock and roll, you know, it's enjoyable, it's interesting, it has a lot of oomph. Do I enjoy this book? Yes. Would I recommend it? Yes. Will I be reading more of this author? No. I was not thrilled by the writing. It did not intrigue me to read more. The characters were fascinating, the plot was interesting, everything was good, but I don't think I'd like this writing style written about another story. If she comes out with another plot that I find interesting, I will probably pick it up. But as far as her backlist, I am not interested. I don't find any of it something I want. I don't find any of it something I'm going to pick up, and I don't think that it's going to be a new favorite author. I think she's fine. I enjoyed her book, but unless I'm interested in the plot, I'm not picking up her next book or any other books. This was a lot of fun. This is Liz Harmer, The Amateurs. This is a dystopian, and you guys know how I feel about dystopian. This one claims Harmer takes cues from Margaret Atwood and Cormac McCarthy in a sharp debut cautionary tale of tech gone astray. Every time that a book is compared to Margaret Atwood, okay, I'm going to actually go out and say this now, because I had a subscriber of mine call me on this, and I'm just gonna set the record straight. I have some issues with what Margaret Atwood has done in the past. I do. However, I have separated the author or artist from the art in this situation because I don't believe she's done anything morally reprehensible that I can't agree with. I think she is probably a good person. I think she has good intentions, especially since some of her books are so well versed and definitely very feminist. I will read Margaret Atwood, and things that are compared to Margaret Atwood, I usually enjoy. I have not found myself in a scenario where I have been tested morally in terms of a author that I wanted to read but didn't. I disagree with some of her actions morally, but they don't make me think she is an immoral person. So I can actively support her as an artist. And the subscriber that called me on that, I really appreciate, and I am very glad that they said something and said they support me on my channel and they don't agree with me politically, I believe it was. That is completely fine. If you don't agree with me politically, I understand. I can see your viewpoint. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't agree with you. But I really appreciate you giving me your views and your time and your energy, and putting in the time for that comment means a lot to me. So thank you so much. And anyone out there who feels that my opinion differs from them, I really appreciate you still supporting me despite that. So there's that. This was compared to Margaret Atwood. Do I think it's a fair comparison? Yes, in some formats. I don't think this is like Handmaid's Tale dystopian. It's a little bit more, I can't remember, But it's a little bit more one of her other dystopians that I feel there's a good series of it. The MaddAddam series, the MaddAddam trilogy. It's more similar to that. This is the story of a group of people who are trying to survive in a world where there is a technology that allows people to go to a place of nostalgia and what would the word be? They call it longing, nostalgia and longing, and they don't return. And so the world is depleting of their people and people in society, because people are going into this field of nostalgia and not returning. Whether they can't return or they just don't return, we don't know. The opening sequence is really interesting. It grabbed me immediately. I felt really drawn to the world. I felt extremely validated in my ideas and my thoughts about the book by the end. And I felt extremely connected to the characters. I saw the value in each of them. I saw how they mattered to the community and the culture and how they were changing the environment and how they were trying to stay alive and survival. It was really interesting. I really appreciated it, and I would definitely recommend it. I saw this on a couple people's channel before I picked it up, and I wasn't sure if I was going to pick it up because it was Canadian, and I thought I was going to have to order outside of the US, and I haven't been doing that a lot lately. But luckily this one was available at print, so I just ordered it from them. That was not supposed to be the last one, so I'll just talk about this one before my last one. This one should probably be Between Mind and Fire and Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, somewhere in there. This is Adam Johnson's Fortune Smiles. It's a short story collection. Now, I went into this with the interest of reading unlikable characters' stories. That is what this book really focuses on, and that is how this book really executes itself. It has a lot of focus on characters that are uncomfortable and potentially bad and potentially wrong in some format. One story does come from the perspective of a pedophile. So it runs along that darkness of line, and it is interesting and worth reading. However, I wouldn't say it's comfortable. I would not say it's a comfortable read. I would not say that to go into this in a bad headspace is a good plan. And that's disturbing. So if you're not in the headspace to get the darker things, don't do this. Just don't do it. And then the last book, my favorite of the month, The Burning by Laura Bates. I genuinely loved this book. This was something that I wish I could hand to younger girls in my life, but I don't know if their parents would appreciate that, because this is not an easy conversation to have with your teen. This talks about revenge porn, and it talks about it openly, and it talks about it bluntly. And it is dark, and it is twisted, and it is very messed up. And I honestly feel from the bottom of my heart that this is super important to talk about. There is no judgment on the girl who sent the naked photo. I can see how it happened. I can see why it happened. I can see logic. I can see everything that girl went through and her thought process. It makes sense to me. And how it ended up in that way, I hold the boy entirely responsible for posting. But the person who ends up getting persecuted is, of course, the girl. And this is a story following her after she has left home due to the persecution and moved to Scotland with her mother after her father died. And the two of them are trying to start a new life together in a world where she is off social media, off of the internet, and not in a place where she can be in that world anymore. And the rumors spread like wildfire and things don't go the way she wants them to, and it is a witch hunt. And while this is going on, she is researching a local witch, and it's just a really interesting dynamic and mirror image. I really appreciated it. I loved it. I definitely would recommend it if you can get your hands on it. It is a UK buy. I was sent this by Amanda Center for a very sweet random gift. Don't worry, I have like 5 books I'm sending her. It's equal. But yeah, this is something else. This is something else, and I really appreciate it. So those are all the books that I read for April. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much to my Patreons. I love you guys so much. If you're looking for a way to support me, I will link my Patreon down in the doobly-doo. I will talk to you in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.